Greetings, Summoners. Cosmic here, and welcome back to another Battle Spirits Saga video. And today we got a very, very awesome ban and restricted list that's going to be live on October 6th. But really quickly, before I dive into this and the update, and also we got insane spoilers. I'm going to cover that later sometime. But you will notice that there was a little bit of a gap in the videos. My computer completely crashed over the weekend, like literally lost everything, just trying to get back up and running. So I do apologize. I know I have to get up to the Melbourne top 8 list. We got to cover this today. There's a lot of good stuff coming, and obviously, like, we woke up today to the best news possible, and also the spoilers today were really great. So eventually I'll get back on board with it, but we got to talk about the BNL update today. So there it is, just laid out. And what I really loved is that they went the extra mile and gave us like a developer's insight as to why these specific cards were banned, because as we look to the meta, as we look towards the data for top 16 or top 32, right? For those of us that got to see it, or we heard about what was in top 32, right? It was very clear that Depths and Axe Spider needed to go. In fact, they needed to go so badly that when I pulled the players who will be going to the European Pro Tour, over 90% of players were in favor of having a ban list active for the Pro Tour. They didn't know what the bans were going to be. They just said, please, get me out of this format ASAP, Bandai, please, right? Players were begging on social media, in the surveys that Bandai collect, basically everywhere. If you were a top player in this game, you already knew that these were an issue. To my surprise, we did actually get a volcanic break limit, which as a yellow player, like, I'm really excited for this. Was it needed? I don't know, but I'm still very welcome for it. And then the one that sticks out for a lot of people, and for myself included, was the Overraptidon, and something that I didn't get at first, admittedly, but very much came around to once I saw the reasoning and once I give it more thought. But the one thing, before we get into each of these, we'll go over the dev updates and whatnot, and like who are the big winners, right, from this ban list. The one thing I gotta give a credit to, and I just put a little, oops, that side, I put a little note there at the bottom, is just giving a timeline, because Bandai usually doesn't act this quickly, and I really just want to stress how fast they acted and how good this ban list was, right? So I really got to give a huge kudos to Bandai that if they can keep up with this, and there was people who were previously very negative and very understandable in the Discord, very negative about it, even said today, like, hey, this is really good. This like gives me a little bit of hope that they're listening, right? We just got the Set 3 launch info with the exclusive and gorgeous playmat. Now we're getting a ban list update, which Local Health really struggled with this, right? If you talk to a lot of people within the Discord or in Facebook, again, a lot of people have either silently quit the game or moved away from it because of the format health, price issuing, all this other stuff aside, right? It was just not fun to play in locals with Axe Spider and Depths around. So it has really just been like win after win. So, of course, there at the bottom right corner, we have the Pro Tour on August 2nd, which is when, yes, Axe Spider lists were like kind of developing up into that point, but it was like Elemental Spark where they really came online. And then Set 2 launched, and of course, we had to wait some amount of time to say, like, okay, let's let Set 2 cook a little bit, see what it was. Ultimately, Set 2 fell pretty flat with where it was at. And then the Tulsa Grand Open, which was August 28th, gave us back to, oh no, this looks really bad. This is just as bad it was in the Pro Tour. And that's when, shortly before that, we got the update from the dev team saying, hey, we're looking into it. They're looking beyond top 16. They're looking at top 32 for these lists. A lot of, like, data-driven discussions were happening between Axe Spider and Depths, and ultimately, because of some of the other changes, we did get these other 2 cards. So again, huge kudos to Bandai. This is the most on-point and most correct, quickest timeline ever for a ban list I think we've seen in 7 years. Again, maybe Dragon Ball Super had something that was more on point and even quicker or equally quick, but at the time of recording this, literally less than a month is lightning speed for any trading card game to have a ban list update and recognize that, oh crap, this is a problem. So with that out of the way, huge kudos, but let's get into the cards themselves. So up first, we have Volcanic Break. It is limited to 1 copy, and I am just going to read these for those that may not be able to watch the video, but of course, if you want to skip ahead, you can just, skip, pause, what have you. So in red strategies like Pterosaurs, Volcanic Break has proven to be an extremely effective flash effect for destroying 5/6 cost spirits in aggressive decks of other colors, limiting the opportunity for counterattacks. Although there are various other aggressive deck archetypes and colors that are not red, this card has been a major component in preventing them from being used effectively. By adding this card to the limited card list, we aim to increase diversity in the kinds of aggressive decks that can be played in the upcoming and future metagame. And if you look to some of the videos, like if you watch the top 8 or finals, we got to see this time and time again between, the Ryan Matis games. You go all the way back to set 1 with like the yellow versus red dual eagle game plan. Like there are a lot of times where, hey, just a 3 and you're losing the soul core, right? Big deal. Pay 3, kill a 6K is just so much tempo value swinging in red's favor that it's really hard to make these other cards playable. So again, the big winner here that just like right out of the gate is going to be yellow, which is great because dual eagle stonks go up, shin stonks go up. Even if we're shifting to a different luster target in set 3, whatever, we'll still take it, right? And just in general, a lot of times, like if they didn't need to pay the soul core, just a 3K burn is pretty good. Now, to be fair, we are getting a card in set 3 that is going to hit 2 4K bodies, which is still going to be pretty insane for the yellow matchups in particular and a lot of purple. So red is still going to have a good amount of removal that's coming up. And we haven't seen all the red magic at the time of recording this, but this really isn't as big of a loss for them. It's still limited to 1. You're probably still playing the 1 of anyways, but I at least appreciate them acknowledging it for some of these other mid-range strategies. And so the other color that we're going to talk about, of course, is purple, because they wanted to have their Beldegor targets survive, and red just said, well, sorry, I'm going to do this in my main phase, kill your guy, and now I can just swing whenever I want, right? You don't have to worry about the Beldegor if you volcanic break in main. And 6K was killing everything anyways, right? It just BP thresholds were lower for purple because that's how they balance it out. So I'm really curious to see how this is going to change that dynamic. Now, there is a card we're going to talk about later about purple not getting to completely run away with the format and kind of keep it in check, but I definitely think this is a welcomed addition for, something that wasn't outright broken, but at least gives some more breathing room to some of these more aggressive or mid-range strategies that really needed that breathing room otherwise. But Volcanic Break, I think, is going to be an interesting spot because, Arcana Joker has come up a little bit, so we're going to talk about that too. But there are some other things that, we'll have to see what other, red-based removal they get and how that lines up with the format. But overall, limit to 1, very solid. Now, getting into the bans, right? So we have Overraptidon. Yes, it's a vanilla, and yes, it deserved to be banned, which is something that I think caught all of us off guard, but we're very okay with it now that we've sat down, reacted to it, and got to see, the reasoning and how it plays out. This is a very good one. So again, just going to read it line for line to start. To manage the power level of pterosaurs while keeping the archetype viable, really important, they still want these archetypes viable, we are adding Overraptidon to the ban card list. Many decks can struggle with the early game pressure of Overraptidon, followed by Jurassic King Giganorex. We have deemed this additional measure necessary to offset the other changes that heavily impact control-based strategies. So, yes, this is one of the cards that it was not impossible. Yes, it was the high roll, but there were times that because of this, you got to play the turn 2 Giganorex, and very few decks could ever come back from that. Obviously, if you can I got you with Curse Dragon on some turns, but even that is extremely limited, and it just did not feel good play patterns. Now, yes, Giganorex is still very fine. I'm sure it's going to make a splash in the Pro Tour. You can quote me on that. I'm sure it's going to be fine. It just shifts to more mid-range. And then, of course, with set 3, we have Flood that's entering the field, which really wants them to shift to more mid-range anyways. So this is just fine. Yes, I'm sure at some point in the future, we are going to see another one-drop pterosaur of some sorts that give back to this type of Giganorex playstyle that people like, but it might just be a couple sets out, or it's a 2-drop with 2 reduction sort of thing, right? It will eventually come back in some fashion, but at least for right now, it is kicked to the curb. So again, one that I don't think a lot of people really had their thumb on the pulse for and what have you, but it's something that I think we're all going to be fine and very happy with at the end of the day. Now let's get into the 2 big ones at the point of this video and how much the meta is going to completely change forever and for the best, all things considered. So, Axe Spider. This card has proven to be over-centralizing cornerstone of control-heavy white strategies. The viability of many archetypes seems to be determined by their ability to address this card in tandem with spells like Suppression and Infinity Shield. So again, setting up those hey, these are my extra copies of Absolute Ice Shield and you have to respect them. Besides the strength of this combination limiting card diversity among white strategies, so again, it's not just power level, it's diversity within the archetype, this tactic has also contributed to games taking longer to complete than we had anticipated. We aim to alleviate both issues through adding this card to the banned card list. And to be fair, right, the way that the deck has been evolving, in some matchups, Axe Spider ends up being the worst card anyways, but everything that they have said here is true. your suppressions are still going to be good. Your infinity shields are still going to be good, but now you're removing this wall that is just never dying, where your opponent at least has some counterplay against it if you have an answer. And honestly, that is what the game should be about, right? It should be about the battle phase and having some kind of interaction that's just not, oops, here's an unkillable wall, have fun type of things, right? Or as we've seen now with a lot of players saying they're just going to go back to Elk. Elk is fine, right? That's a much higher cost. It has to get to the block phase to do its thing. You can kill it with, the yellow spells. So it's open to much more in the format and is truly a healthier play style for what Axe Spider wants to enable. So I wouldn't be surprised if the White Frost Tiger, I think his full name is, which is going to be a machine beast, right, in set 3, if that adds even more to the white machine beast control list that we are going to be seeing. But that said, this is also just from a, diversity standpoint, a fun at local standpoint. There is just a million reasons under the sun why this card and also depths needed to be hit, but it's good to see here, and it's also good to see the note from Bandai and from the devs about how they're going to treat this. And then last but not least is Netherworld Depths. So in the current competitive landscape, this card has become a mainstay in many strategies. Most purple archetypes, white decks designed to stop many attacks, and green and yellow decks that generate cores quickly. So again, everything but red. I want to make that very clear. Everyone but red was playing Depths, right? In those top 32 and top 16 place lists. We have observed play patterns revolving around the early resolution of Netherworld Depths to be non-interactive and undesirable. If you want any other proof than that, you can go back to my feature match at Tulsa Monroeville, round 1, where game 2 is like double depths, you're out of the game. And that was it, right? That is exactly what they are trying to prevent. Therefore, we have chosen to add it to the ban card list to improve gameplay experience and deck building diversity. One thing I did not include here, but is at the end of the note, they have now confirmed that in the same post, so you can go check it and fact check me if you want, what have you. In this post, we can expect the next ban and restriction update, or limited, whatever term you want to use, right, on the release of set 4. So yes, this is now going to be a thing where every set going forward is going to have, I would assume, some conversation from the dev team, or it's just like a, hey, everything's good, keep at it, right? Sort of thing. So we now at least have that expectation on what to look forward to if something is a problem. And again, I really want to stress that if you look at Dragon Ball, and if you look at like Digimon and One Piece, well, One Piece needs to have it anyways, like they're very gung-ho on if there is a new set drop, that is when we drop the ban and limited updates, and that's it. That is 100% when we're doing it. We're not doing sooner. That's when it's going to be dropping, I guess, and erratas, right, for Dragon Ball Super. And that's largely fine, right? All things considered, you want to have a new set come out. You want to have the meta explore a little bit, but where it was, set 2 landed pretty flat. Obviously, locals got hurt quite a bit by Depths and Axe Spider and other factors, so it was time for them to do something. And again, I really want to stress, in case you skipped ahead, over 90% of players who are going to the Pro Tour wanted a ban. They didn't know what the ban was. They just said, please save us from this format. We want a ban. I think the high-level competitive players really stuck it out and, let their voices be heard, and is very much, we pulled NA, we pulled EU, we've got a couple people from Oceania, right? There is an agreement around these cards from your top-level players and your Grand Open champions and Pro Tour winner. Just, to really stress the point of the highest echelon of players are all agreeing and coming around these bans. So you'd love to see it. This was the most in tune and kind of on point ban we probably could have expected and that Bandai has done in quite some time. So really happy with it. Yes, maybe there should have been some other stuff. So let's talk about it, right? But purple can't draw cards now. I'm sorry, what? Hello? Are you okay? I have seen this comment multiple times now. And are we playing the same game? Like, I don't have to sugarcoat it anymore. I think I can finally speak freely with all things considered. You were out of your mind if you think purple can't draw cards. Did you forget Mr. Best Lands? Did you forget the new spoilers that we got? Did you forget that every other bloody card? I don't think that is. I don't think the 3 drops even on this. No, I didn't even get all the cards that draw on here because there's so many. I just took a screenshot from Bandai TCG Plus. I'm like, okay, find me all the cards that say draw. Right? Look, purple draws cards and reds draw cards. That's what they do. I'm sorry that you lost Depths, but to pretend that this color cannot just draw out of its bloody mind 9 different ways to Sunday, I don't know what to tell you. We're playing a different game. But, rest assured, yes, people will have to go back to playing things like Purple Smoke Valley. Oh no, right? We have to actually pull off combos that let us draw cards. Or Rotting Swamp, which, again, spoiler, has been insane with Nemesis and got so much support in set 2 and is likely going to see more support in set 3. Like, but I promise you, purple is going to be fine. And also, like, Cavalier randomly being a 4-drop that is probably going to see a lot more play now because it's more likely to survive with Beldegor stuff. And also, if Nemesis, if you just don't want to play when summons, right, you can cut all the way back down to Beldegors and, like, not have to worry about Star Blast Draw a lot of times. But, yes, there is still a lot of when summon effects in purple that, hey, we have to balance this somehow right at the end of the day. And, yes, I know a lot of people are going to say, but what about Star Blast Draw? I hear you. I really do. But if we were to remove this card, and if you just saw all those good purple cards I had just showcased, there is no doubt in my mind, and a lot of purple players will agree, that if you just gut Star Blast Draw from the format, nothing's beating purple. Like, we need the checks and balance of this card. And yes, as someone who plays a lot of yellow and green, spoiler, I don't like seeing this either, but it is something that, you know, people can have in sideboards. It's something you can more actively play against. If they have a burst set, you can say, okay, I'm going to sequence this differently, see if I can find an aggressive opening and punish them for setting the Star Blast Draw. Spoiler, a lot of green decks can do that. Yellow, especially if the X-Rare depends on it being good for other lander, it's going to feel kind of bad because you have to just battle through the when summon, but I would argue if you're getting like multiple values off Charles, you're probably winning through a Star Blast Draw anyways, and then you're able to swarm the board and go wide, and then just say, hey, did you draw an Ice Shield? Sorry, if not, you're dead, right? So I think there is definitely some considerations, and certainly some feel-bad moments. I want to be very honest. Like, there's still going to be some feel-bad moments with Star Blast Draw in the format as these decks kind of evolve and as they align to how they want to build their decks, right? You can't just build a 30 Spirit when summon deck, or it's going to feel terrible, right? Now, that said, again, yellow and green really are, you know, punished by this in some way that with other lander. But generally speaking, if you think about, you know, some of the green aggro decks or the green tempo deck that we've seen, there are other ways that you can play just a few when summons. And then the way the game plays out, you can just hold them until you force them to reveal what it is. Because chances are it could be a Dream Bomb or something too, right? So there are at least creative ways to play around it to a degree where if we consider something like Depths, the play around of it was sit there, do nothing, pray to God you draw a Nexus removal, which was not fun for anybody. But I think Star Blast Draw, as we continue to see some of these very, very strong when summon effects coming into the game, Star Blast just becomes more and more of a necessary evil in the format. And as we get more burst cards, it also then becomes a game of, oh God, what do they actually have set? Because I have to play around more and more options. So I definitely think in set 1, it felt super bad. In set 2, there's still a lot of other things that we can play. In set 3, the way that the meta has shaped, or what we can expect the meta to shake up now with the bans and with some of the other things, like this card naturally falls off, I think, with how some of the decks are aligning themselves. But again, it is something that we absolutely still needed in the format because of purple. So if you haven't already, go get your SPRs of Star Blast Draw because the card is going up in value, at least to some degree. And then the other one, which is interesting, right? As we move away from Volcanic Break and we try to think about, okay, well, Arcana Joker has been a staple. We've seen this in a lot of Pterosaur decks. We know it's in a lot of yellow decks. Just that good unblockable damage can go the distance. And we already have seen some decks put Flame Breath in the sideboard as a way to make sure you don't die to that Joker, or at least the first one. They could have something like Impaler Forest to loop them back, or, you know, Spiral Tower or something, right? There's multiple ways to get value out of this and make sure that they come back. If you're recycling, like the first one gets hit, you go to combat, you swing at the second one, then you can recycle them with Spiral Tower. If you haven't checked out the Rainbow Nemesis list we posted on the channel, go check that out. It's really sick. But in general, right, Red is going to say, okay, well, what answers do I have now that Volcanic Break is gone to answer Arcana Joker or some of those other like Lord of the Crown unblockable stuff that we're likely going to continue to see out of yellow, to be fair. And Flame Breath is like strangely relevant again. And this is funny because it's like a set 1 card everybody hated. It just kills something for 4K, but spoiler, Arcana Joker during main at best is going to be a 4K, so cool, it kills it. That's all we care about. So, of course, we have to see what the other red magics are going to be from this set and with the set 3 spoilers, but it does give me some hope that at least some of the sideboard action is going to shake up a little bit as well as we shift away from things like Volcanic Break and what that might do to the format. So definitely go take another look at the various magics and burst cards that we got in set 1 and set 2, because you might find a couple good surprises. And then, of course, last but not least, I got to give my personal vote. And I promise I'm not biased. I'm not even a purple player, man. I just love this card. But I definitely think from today, Dread Knight Nemesis gets the most from the Ban and Restricted update because it has Impaler Forest, which is already insane for us. The Fortress card is insane for Nemesis. We have Rotting Swamp, which is insane for Nemesis, right? Like, this is looking to be gas, and we can already play so few when summoned, and with set 3, we could go down to 0 if we really wanted to. I'm not saying that's correct. You probably always want some, like, 2 to 3 number of Beldegors, just because it's obviously the most insane value in the world. But purple now does have a deck that can fully get around the when summoned cost. So I am really excited to see where this ends up. And so with that, we are at the end of the ban update, and I am super excited to see where this all goes. So definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments below if this is going to be a big shakeup for you. What are you most looking forward to testing out first, right? Like, hey, yellow might be playable again. Let's go. Like, Volcanic Break giving me a little bit of Luster Hopium. Dual Eagle gets to live now without having to make sure you always have the Nexus to bump him to 7K. Cool. I'm excited to see where this goes. And I think overall, just based on the Facebook posts at the time of posting this and, the community Discord, which again, if you want to join the BSS community Discord, links down below, everyone seems super excited. And I think that is the best news, right? We got amazing set 3 spoilers today. We got a huge ban and limited update. There is a lot of great energy coming together for Battle Spirits Saga, and I can only hope that it continues. So with that, my friends, have a wonderful rest of your week. Stay safe, stay hydrated, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.